are very welcome. I am Ahonu, and this is my lovely Aingeal Rose. And a few weeks ago, Aingeal Rose developed a rather intriguing idea, which she called the manifesting tree. And many of you may already have heard the story behind that and would have received perhaps a communication from us about that and how to download them. Well, over the last few weeks, we have had great testimonials and successes that people have had using these manifesting trees to create various things in their lives, which are fantastic. But the reason we're making this video now is because we've also received some communications from people, haven't we, Aingeal Rose, who have outlined, first of all, a misunderstanding or a difficulty understanding exactly how to use them, or what things to put down in the trees, and then also what might be prioritizing, the difficulty prioritizing what types of projects to manifest. So with this video now, we're going to just look into these things, and Aingeal Rose is going to explain in great detail exactly how to use these trees and for what purposes.
All right. Okay. So thank you, everybody, first of all, for all the wonderful comments we got in relation to this project and the trees. But we have had, like Ahonu said, we have had a few people write in or ask us, what exactly would you put in the roots? Because a lot of the tree is what you put in the roots. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm just going to hold a picture up, and for those of you who haven't seen the first video, I believe it's going to be, it's on top of this one, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so you can still watch it and understand the story. So I'm not going to go over the story, but this will be a little bit of a follow-up. Okay, so here's an example of a manifesting tree. And as you see, it's blank. And this is one of the trees that are in the package, should you choose to order them. Okay, so what the importance of this is that you really are creating a new tree of life for yourself. Well, what does that mean when I say you're creating a tree of life for yourself? It means that your very being, your very structure, your life itself is your own divine template, which you have the ability to change and transform. Okay, so if you do come, like mentioned in the first video, if you do come from a place where your foundational roots from either your conception or your birth or any sort of trauma you've gone through in your life has not been positive and has left a lasting impact on you, you can go in here and you can rewrite your roots. In other words, if I said to you, if that didn't happen and your foundation for your life was different, if it was joyful and positive and full of joy, what would the words be that would describe that? And sometimes you could just put, like in my case, I was not a welcome pregnancy, so I put things in my roots that I was welcomed, I was loved, I was accepted, I was a joy, a delight, and I put love in very many places. I also put, thrives, is nourished. I put all those sorts of things in my roots. And then as I went up the trunk, I put strong words in there because the trunk I understood it to be the strength that takes what's in the roots and brings it up into manifestation in the leaves. So I would put words like, strength, perseverance, positive self-confidence, happiness. And then up here would be the particulars. What did that mean to me? It meant loving friends. It meant safe home, beautiful home, prosperity, all sorts of ideas, accomplishments, things that I was proud of and how I wanted other people to see me, all went up here.
So another way of understanding that is that if you consider that an apple tree will bear apples. So if you have positive, welcoming, nourishing roots down here, then what fruit does that give? So if you're putting in, as in Aingeal Rose's case, she mentioned here about being wanted and being welcomed and all of that, then the outcome of that is welcoming new friends and being developing relationships with people that are welcoming and warming and all of that. So you can see how there's a direct relationship between the roots, the nourishment that's in the roots, and the fruit that you're going to give to the world. Or what was the statement in the Bible where it said, by their fruits you shall know them. So by your fruits you will be known. So if you're nourished and welcomed down here, then by your fruits, they're the kind of that's the kind of personality, or that's the kind of gifts you would be bringing into the world. I hope that makes sense. Yeah?
Right, and receiving from the world.
And receiving.
That's indeed important to say too. All right, so it really is the truth that you have the ability to totally transform your life and basically remap yourself is what we're after. Okay, so that's a blank one. But here's part two. And let me show you just for a minute how I've used these. I want to manifest a trip to Egypt. So I made a tree and I colored this one. So in my roots, I put I found that when I first started this, the phrase floating down the river Nile came into my mind. So somewhere in here, I think right in the center, I have a statement that says flowing easily down the river Nile, and it went all the way up the tree. Okay, but down here I put the qualities of what I want to experience in Egypt. Easy flow, safe journey, all the money comes easily, enjoyment, perfect weather. And then as I went up, I started to get closer to the places I wanted to see in Egypt. The Cairo Museum, the temples of Isis, all these different things. And I found that my inner self wanted to color it. It wanted to have particular colors as I went up the tree. But this is the way I'm manifesting a trip that I want to experience next year.
And that's a perfect example of how you can use these trees to manifest anything in your life, really. Aingeal Rose is showing a specific application of this. But this could be a relationship. It could be a new home. It could be a new job. It could be anything at all.
Right, because I did have somebody who asked me, well, what about a love relationship? Okay, so I'll use another example. Okay, this is another tree I filled in, not for love, but it just goes to show you the different things you could do. And I used a lot of red ink down here because red is the color of the physical world. Okay, so, but you can put things in here that are the qualities of the perfect type of love relationship that you want to have. And when I say qualities, I mean, wonderful communication, honesty, loyalty, loving, fun together. And then up here, you strengthen that with perfect love, destiny occurring. And then up here, you put the manifestation. What is it like when you have your perfect love? What are you doing together? Do you have a family? Do you have children? Are you going on trips together? What are the particulars? They all go up here.
Mm-hmm. And those kind of strengthening words that you can put in here in that instance would be the likes of trustworthy and dependable and resilient, because that's what that trunk is. It's all about strength, and in this case, the strength of your relationship.
All right, and I'll just show one more that you can do when you're creating these. Those who bought the package are going to get this particular tree in there as well as the others. And but you see, this one was a Celtic tree of life. So I had fun with this one. And as you see, I make trees for different purposes. I've made one for our business. I've made one for our home, for our family, for our health. Okay, so with this one, because it has DNA strands around it, you can keep in mind, and I wrote in the ladders of the DNA as well as the whole thing. But in this, I was very aware that I was shifting my DNA around. And so I want you to take this literally when you be really careful about what you put in here, because it does turn into chemicals and programs. Okay.
Beautiful.
All right. So part 2 of this little video is addressing not only that question that people have about what to put in the roots, but some of the emotions and thoughts you can experience as you do this, because you literally are remapping yourself. You're putting new programs in your cells directly into not only your mind and your emotions, but in your physical body. So as a result of that, you can have a little bit of detoxification. I'll use that word. Okay, and how that can manifest on a mental level is, in my case, and I've done this with other manifesting, I would wake up really depressed. Like after I did this, a couple days later, 3 days later, I'd wake up full of doubt. I'd be angry. I'd have these depressed feelings like, oh, this doesn't work. Why bother? But what's happening in those cases is that the old stuff is coming up out of you. Okay, so it has to come out somewhere. It has to express itself somewhere. So a lot of times it will come out and you'll have those feelings or thoughts. But the way I deal with that is I'm understanding what's happening. So instead of going into a funk about it and giving up, that's when I go and I make a new one. I get another clean sheet of paper and I reinforce what I'm going to put in here.
Right.
I say it again. And what I'm finding is each time I do it, I'm refining it a little bit. I'm paying attention to not only the things that have manifested already, because this is a very, very rapid process. You'll start to see things shift very quickly. But for the things that haven't shifted, I reinforce them down here. Okay, I put what I really want to happen. In other words, it's almost like being stubborn and saying to your inner self, this is what it's going to be. Mm-hmm. I'm reinforcing this. Okay. Yeah. And I go all the way up the tree again and I do it again. And like I say, I find that I'm adding more things to it that I didn't think of the first time.
Yes, because they start to unfold over time.
And you had that happen to you too, didn't you? Huh?
Yeah. And when Aingeal Rose mentioned about some of the resistance that come up when you do an exercise like this, and take depression, for example, because I've never been depressed in my life, but yet in doing this exercise, I did wake up at one morning feeling that sense of depression. But what you don't want to do, and this is only a caution and a little bit of advice, is you don't want to, in the new tree that you're making now, to put in those negative words, because in the final outcome that you want, there is no place for those negative words. So you wouldn't say, for example, I am over my depression, or depression is or you wouldn't even want to mention,
you don't mention
those kinds of words. So you would replace those words with the positive counterpart. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Especially if you wake up in a funk, you want to rewrite in your roots, I wake up feeling happy and happier every day.
Yes. My manifesting is working. My manifesting for this relationship, this trip, this house, whatever, is growing stronger, and so on.
Right. I have full confidence that my manifesting is occurring now. Things like that.
Yes.
Okay, but one of the exercises you can do, because those who bought the package will have seen that they have this tree. You can use this tree, if you need to write down your doubts or the feelings that you have are negative. You could put down feeling doubtful, I don't believe this, feeling depressed, feeling low, I want to give up, I feel defeated. You can put whatever it is you're feeling in these leaves just to see, in particular, what are those thoughts. And after you do this, you kind of want to burn this one.
Yeah.
You don't want to you don't want to use this for manifesting.
You're using it to bring to
You're
the
using
surface.
it to flesh out,
yes,
what's in your way.
What's blocking
you.
you.
And each thing just kind of itemizes that for you. And then you want to go, and burn this and again, reinforce your positive tree.
But just so that we're clear and you understand that, because I did say a few moments ago, don't write negative things in that tree, right?
Yeah.
But
not in that tree.
So to clarify on what Aingeal Rose is explaining here, is that a lot of times those negatives need to come up to the surface so that you can see them, right? Rather than being in your head, and I don't know why I'm upset, and I don't know why I'm depressed, and if you write them down here, you can actually see them, and of course burn them. But the reason why I want to just dwell on this for a moment is that you remember when I mentioned about only apples can grow from an apple tree. So if you're finding that you wanted an apple tree, but suddenly grapes are growing or carrots are growing, or, you know then that your manifesting obviously is not going to deliver what you want, but it's great to see that early. It's like, in a way, if you plant a line of carrots and a weed grows up in the middle of it, you'll pluck out that weed so that it'll give room and space for all the carrots to grow. So in the same way, if you see something negative popping up here, then it's the time to recognize it, acknowledge it, love it, and burn it, because you want to pluck it out so that it doesn't block the manifesting of your tree.
Right. Because there is something that unwinds energy just by the fact of looking at it, letting it come to conscious awareness. It starts to unravel as soon as you do that. It only builds an energy when you suppress it. And this is also something that you don't have to start analyzing it. You don't have to say, oh, I'm feeling depressed today. Why do I feel depressed? You don't have to do that. You can just take note of what you're thinking and feeling, write them all down as an interesting exercise. And again, those are the areas where you might have had a deeper programming.
Right.
Okay, so that's when you go to your clean tree and you write down, well, what's the opposite of that? What do I want to experience instead? And you reinforce and you strengthen it by doing that.
Right. There's one thing we want to close with now, which is a rather interesting development that has happened over the last number of weeks. And that is how corporations are starting to use this. And we found this really interesting because initially the idea was that with a tree of any kind, you would put marketing ideas down here and sales ideas here and research and development over here. But that's not what happened. What we found was that the corporation would use one specific tree for their marketing, and one specific tree for employees, and one particular tree for research and development, or whatever it was. And in that way, different teams could actually work and flesh out and develop their own department. And we found that to be a very interesting use of the tree. You could perhaps use that in your own way, that you would dedicate one to health, for example, and one to relationships and so on.
And we will be offering videos in detail about specific things in the future. But as far as the business model, we are working with these particular companies because there are follow-ups that have to occur when you're in a group situation like that, or you're doing a business. So we will be releasing that pretty soon in terms of a program to help businesses grow. So stay with us, and thank you again for your support. And we're so delighted that you find this concept useful. And indeed, I'm just going to reinforce that this manifesting happens almost immediately, if not sooner. And so you need to be watchful about what is changing, and then what are areas that you're still a little bit stuck in, and then just reinforce them and make a new tree. You can download these. Obviously, you can have as many as you want.
And in the same way, in the same way that people said at the beginning, I mentioned that people said in the beginning that we were getting feedback, oh, I'm having difficulty. Do contact us, and please share your successes as well as the difficulties you may be having, because
they have been.
We'd be delighted to help you out in every way we can, and that's what we're here for. So,
all right.
Blessings.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. And bye-bye.